Krishna Kumar, who's the Managing Director and Group Executive of International Banking at the State Bank of India, is with us in studio. Krishna, your first visit, I believe, to the country.
That's right. It's the first time I'm coming here to this wonderful country.
It's taken you a long time. You've been the bank's been around since 1997. Is it now starting to hit the radar?
Well, no, the bank has been here since 1997. I took charge of the international banking assignment just 3 months ago, so I think I've been pretty fast in coming here.
All right, so it's your first trip, but certainly not because all of a sudden we've been escalated to the top of the pile. How big is it? How big are you in South Africa?
Well, in South Africa, we started out in 1997 with just one office in Johannesburg. Right now, we have 8 offices, 3 in the Joburg area, 3 in the Durban area, 1 in Port Elizabeth, and 1 in Cape Town.
And your clients?
Clients are basically South Africans, people of Indian origin, Indian expatriates and so on. So it's basically across the board. There is no particular focus, though initially there was a focus on the Indian expatriate community, but now we are trying to move that focus to the general South African.
So you bank people like the Guptas?
Other than that, those also.
But them and others?
And others, of course.
They would be expatriate Indians who've made South Africa their home.
Yes, true.
And the size of your operation, your asset-based operation?
The asset book of the South African operations as of June 2014 was roughly 4.5 billion rand. That's about $450 million US.
Okay, so it's small.
It's small.
But the fact that you're here and the fact that you have been expanding since '97 suggests that you have some ambition.
Certainly, we do have an ambition to grow in South Africa. It has taken us about 15 years or so to really stabilize and bring the operations here to some sort of shape. And right now, the South African operations of ours are doing reasonably well. So we think the time is ripe for us to sort of diversify our book from the Indian community. In fact, across the world, wherever we have been operating, we have about a 65–70% of the assets are to the Indian community or related to the Indian community. That we're trying to bring the focus on to the entire community of that particular place where we are. So we would be definitely expanding our
Krishna, the issue that I guess one would look at is India is a member of BRICS, as is South Africa. But so is China. And China has been very aggressive in its banking field in coming to South Africa. ICBC owning 20% of the biggest, or the most valuable bank in this country, and China Construction Bank, Bank of China, etc. Why do you think India has been so far behind, relatively speaking, to the Chinese in this engagement?
I would perhaps put it more on the economic clout which the Chinese have, which India does not have the same type of leverage as the Chinese can manage. We are, though we are part of the BRICS, all of us, still India is a developing country, and there are a lot of issues at the domestic front which have to be sorted out before we can really expand to the global place. As far as State Bank of India goes, of course, we have been in the international arena for more than 50–60 years now in our State Bank of India avatar, because we were a bank, we have been a bank in existence for more than 200 years. The international book of State Bank of India is relatively sound and safe, and of the overall State Bank of India book, we in the international banking division contribute about 17% of the total asset size of the bank. And of that 17%, $450 million USD is South Africa, of the total asset size of 47 billion of the international book. So it's fairly small right now.
Wow, it's tiny. Is Africa going to be a bigger slice of that going into the future? Have you set yourself any targets?
There are targets. We want to contribute to at least 25% of the State Bank of India global book from the international banking arena. Our global
from Africa?
No, from the global book to begin with.
Okay, so you want to go from 17 to 25?
That's right.
And of that 25,
perhaps what is $450 million US in South Africa could become $1 billion US in South Africa in the near future, meaning about a couple of years or 2–3 years down the line.
So, and to achieve that, you would move outside of your traditional base of expatriate Indian members of the community.
That's right.
Just to close off with that, and this, I often ask the colleagues who come from India about this. The perception about corruption in India is very high all over the world. You have a new government, you have a a fresh broom, one would anticipate, working for a government-owned organization as you do, although it's not wholly owned by the government. Are you seeing the light, or are you seeing a lot brighter future with the new government that's come into power?
Well, certainly yes, there is a lot to look for ahead as we speak. In fact, I'll just touch on the corruption aspect first. I mean, I don't deny there is corruption in the country, of course there is, but perhaps it's blown out of proportion because this sort of news makes the headlines always.
Well, Warren Buffett says he will not invest in India after visiting there because of the high level of corruption.
Well,
unfortunately, he's a man who carries lots of weight.
That's true, that's true. But then the point I'd like to make is that India is not only the negative side. There is a lot of positives coming out of India as well. And just a case in point, in the last couple of years, perhaps the industrialists in India have been sitting sort of tight on their plans to expand capacity to move ahead. Now, over the last 3 months, they have started opening up and at least discussing with the bankers, not only with State Bank of India, with all the bankers in India, on their plans on how they want to move ahead in terms of capacity expansion. So that discussion itself is a positive sign for us.
Indeed it is, and it's well, we have a deep history together, the two countries, and we do hope that that gets stronger. And I'm sure the visit of Krishna Kumar, the State Bank of India's Managing Director and Group Executive of the International Banking Division, will be a step in that right direction.